Third time's the charm, with old characters returning, new adventures awaiting, and a spectacle of dinosaurs lurking. Welcome back to Easily Entertained. My name is Bryson Olson, and here we talk about mostly all of the good things of entertainment. This episode is also our 2-year anniversary of doing Easily Entertained. It's a great time here. We love doing this. It's so much fun. I say we, I mean me, with you as the watchers. You're the audience. It's a great time. And as such, it being our anniversary, I am keeping up with the tradition I am following of reviewing the sequels of our first episode, Jurassic Park. So we are talking about Jurassic Park 3, and this was probably the first sequel I saw after watching the original Jurassic Park when it was back for its 20th anniversary in 2013. That was the time I watched the first one, and then not long after that I would have seen Jurassic Park 3 because my grandparents had it, and I don't think they had The Lost World for some reason, so I watched Jurassic Park 3 first before I watched The Lost World. But anyways, this is also the sequel that for a long time it was renowned as the worst sequel of the Jurassic Park franchise until, of course, more recently we got Jurassic World Dominion, which I think most people, including myself, is definitely the weakest of the franchise. In recent years, though, we've also seen kind of a resurgence of love for Jurassic Park 3. It's kind of been interesting. So let's see what's good and also what's kind of all right about Jurassic Park 3. So Jurassic Park 3 is kind of when the franchise as a whole started to take a different direction. And you can see this in the movie as well, as not just like around the movie. But first, let's talk about the around the movie part. This was when Spielberg decided he wasn't going to direct any more Jurassic Park films. He did the first 2, and that was it. And he would produce, I believe, all of them. But he wasn't the one making all the creative decisions. From 3 and onwards, it was always a different director. And as a result, the new director that took hold, he was friends with Spielberg, but not everything that Spielberg brought to the franchise in the first 2 sequels was going to be shared with these. And that's just because the director decided to do something a little bit different. It seems like they tried to combine aspects from the first 2, some being all right and some not as much. So they bring like Alan Grant, they have Site B from The Lost World, you have some new dinosaurs. It's a great time. You have some old, you have some new. It's kind of like a Frankenstein's monster of a Jurassic Park sequel. Just like the character's misunderstanding of Alan Grant not having been to the second island, the movie kind of misunderstood its place in Hollywood, kind of assuming that just because it was Jurassic Park meant that it would do well. And while it's not the worst sequel, in fact, I still pretty much enjoy all of them, it's also not the best sequel. It was kind of lackluster, and some things, it just seemed odd in the context of the franchise. For example, the T-Rex, probably the dinosaur other than the raptors most associated with this franchise, they decided to kill off in this one for some reason. And you know, the T-Rex returns in other ones, but in this one they just kill him. I believe also in researching, this was the one that Michael Crichton, who wrote the Jurassic Park and Lost World novels, he wasn't really involved with this one. I believe in almost all of the others he was involved, but this one he was not. So I can kind of explain a little bit of why they went the way they did. But one direction I did like, though, is the direction of which Alan Grant's character went. After the events of Jurassic Park, it's not really surprising to find that Alan is now no longer a fan of any of InGen's work. While he was amazed at the very beginning of Jurassic Park, it's very clear his motives and his thoughts on the matter are a lot different now. He believes that the dinosaurs on the island are theme park monsters. He studies fossils and makes discoveries that way rather than following the genetic abominations on the islands. It just feels like a very plausible way for his character to go, and especially after such like a kind of traumatic encounter that he went through, he's probably having a bit of PTSD, and so that makes his motivation when going through the events of this movie a lot more believable, as he's kind of coerced into helping someone, and while he is happy to help people, he doesn't like that he was tricked into doing so. So I like that they make his character a bit more believable, and I think that works for this movie.
Eric, I have to tell you, I'm astonished that you've lasted 8 weeks on this island.
Child characters in the Jurassic Park franchise have always kind of had a reputation of not being particularly great. They're usually kind of dumb or kind of useless. Like they exist so that our main characters will have something to do, have to save them, which, I'm not really a huge fan of that. However, I do think a big upside in this one is that Eric, the kid who gets stranded on Site B after a parasailing accident, he actually knows how to survive, which they don't necessarily explain why, but I do kind of like that you can kind of infer at least a little bit about him. They say he is there for like 8 weeks, which is insane. No real child would ever actually be able to live that long, but they do make him at least competent enough where, like, yeah, he wouldn't actually survive 8 weeks, but it's not like completely out of the picture. It's like he found shelter that's a bit more out of the way and not just a building that is definitely going to bring some unwanted attention. He found some canned and wrapped foods that are not as perishable so that he can survive and eat. He has smoke bombs that he found for quick getaways. He's pretty resourceful, and it's kind of awesome. They even say it in the movie. He's like, the kid's got resources, which on an island you may not have as many resources, but it still makes sense for him to have figured out how to survive for as long as he did. And like, he even saves Alan at one point, saying that he collected T-Rex pee.
How'd you get it?
You don't want to know.
Actually, I do want to know. Thank you very much. But the kid just clearly knows dinosaurs and knows that the island is dangerous, but he can also make it out through perseverance. He knows people are looking for him, and hopefully they will try and rescue him. However, one thing about Eric that I'm not a great fan of is that when he finally meets back up with his parents, he kind of loses his cleverness. Like, he reverts back to just like a vulnerable child while he's with them, basically just being like most of the other Jurassic Park kids that we've seen. But what I think they should have done was kept up his like survivalist aspect. Like, you don't know this island like I do, and been this like badass survivalist that is leading them out rather than vice versa. I just think that would have been cool. I would like to see that, like, take his character one step further. I would have liked that. But on average, throughout the movie, he does quite a bit more than most of the other Jurassic Park kids have done, which I think is fantastic. I like that he has something to do and is not just a pawn in the grand scheme of things. Like, Lex was pretty helpful in the first one. Like, her computer skills kind of come in handy right at the very end. And in the Jurassic World movies, particularly the last two, Maisie becomes a pretty important aspect to him, as she's like a clone and everything. But, you know, like Tim in the first movie doesn't really do a whole lot. He's there to try and get Alan Grant a little bit more used to kids, or get something out of him. Kelly in the Lost World, literally just treating the island like a campsite. Girl, you're gonna die. Don't be just cooking out in the middle of nowhere. That's a stupid move. And I don't care. The gymnastics against the raptors would not work like this. And don't even get me started on these two in Jurassic World. Absolutely pointless characters. Eric is just so much more useful, like, for the actual survival of not just himself, but the whole group on the island. And so it actually makes for a pretty decent child character to have him in the franchise. Now, onto the main event. As always, when we are talking about anything Jurassic Park, we of course have to talk about the dinosaurs, because that is what the movies are about. We can't leave them out. And the most notable in this movie is going to be the Spinosaurus. There is also another that I want to talk about, but first we're going to talk about the Spinosaurus, because it's probably the most iconic dinosaur from this movie in particular. And Spinosaurus has kind of been through the ringer over the years, because knowledge on this creature is like constantly being updated, because in Jurassic Park 3 its style is already outdated, but a lot of people, myself included, still love this design. I know it's not accurate, and I like the accurate version too, but I also love this classic version. And in this one, it's just awesome. I think he's super cool, and he's way more powerful than the real life counterpart, and it has kind of like a malevolent presence in the movie, and I think it's awesome. Like, just following people around. There have been like some like theories, not exactly theories, but like fan canon, that the Spinosaurus is the first like hybrid prior to the Jurassic World movies, and I do kind of like that idea. Like, it's not really been confirmed, but I like the implication that it has as to why it acts certain ways. Anyways, plus I really like that of the dinosaurs in this movie, as well as the other one that we'll talk about, uses animatronics still. Like I said earlier, the director of this movie was not Steven Spielberg. And I don't know if it's necessarily his fault, but I do think it's kind of a shame, because the animatronics, like the extensive use of them that was used in the first Jurassic Park and in the Lost World, which were iconic, and they mixed them with really good CGI for the time, and it like still holds up pretty well. But in this one, that's not as much for the case. Animatronics are used super sparingly. Most of them are just CGI, except for Spinosaurus and the other main one, which, okay, enough foreshadowing. Let's talk about it. It's the raptors. And I wanted to talk about this for a few reasons. One, I love these new designs that they have. They're like very sleek and long, and they take a little bit of inspiration from the ones that are in the original Jurassic Park and the ones in Lost World, but they still adapt them a little bit. Yeah, I believe like canonically it's supposed to just be like a different pack, essentially, like a different group that was made, and that's why they look a little bit different. But I like how they look, plus their significance in the story is pretty good, because like Grant and Billy have been learning about their vocalization stuff, the paleontology things, and then they get to learn a little bit more about it when they're back on the island, and Billy like steals their eggs, and so that makes them have to actually use the vocalization that they learn about at the beginning of the movie. And it's just like a really good show don't tell aspect that I love. They show us something at the very beginning, and then they call back to it later and actually make it pretty important, and that I love. And Dinosaur Twitter absolutely loves these raptors, specifically the male raptor. Has kind of had a resurgence of popularity in the recent years, with users referring to the male raptor in Jurassic Park 3 as Quilliam. And I think that's hilarious. And anytime it is mentioned, I just like that I know what it means, and I can be like, I understand that reference, and that's a pretty good time. But overall, I do like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park 3, though I feel like we don't get them as much as the other movies. I feel like this one focuses a lot more on the people, which, okay, the human story is all right, but it is a Jurassic Park movie. I feel like we should be getting even more dinosaurs. That's my opinion anyway, so maybe that could have been the forefront a little bit more. Jurassic Park 3, though, is one of those like underrated sequels, I would say. Though, like, they got a little bit more hate, and sometimes it's left out of the conversation, and it's still not the best of the franchise. But I still think it holds a lot of fun with it that audiences can still enjoy. So now let's talk about our rating of Jurassic Park 3. Because obviously, the first Jurassic Park, it's a 10. Okay, it's amazing. It's an all day, every day on our scale. Which, by the way, if you don't know our scale, from least to best, it is garbage, once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. Lost World, I would probably put at right mood, because I don't think we had our rating scale at the time of doing that one. But for this one, I'd probably put it around that same level, because I am most likely to watch Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 when I am watching the other movies in the franchise. And when we get to the World movies, I feel like I will have some interesting takes, because I'm not gonna lie, I love most of the Jurassic World movies, one in particular, but you have to wait a while before we talk about that. But yeah, I think I'll put Jurassic Park 3 at right mood. And before you go, we also have our question of the week, and I have done this question several times on different episodes before, but it's Jurassic Park, so it is the de facto question of the week. It is, what is your favorite dinosaur? If you haven't heard mine before, I have 3 that are all kind of tied. I have Allosaurus, Carnotaurus, and Utahraptor. Allosaurus and Utahraptor are both from my home state of Utah, where we're from, our mountainous region, and that's where both of those dinosaurs are from, hence why I really like them. Plus, they're really cool. And Carnotaurus I have loved for a long time because of Disney's Dinosaur from 2000 with the Carnotaurs in them. It's a pretty great time. I want a tattoo of all 3 with like a fern floral arrangement on my arm. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, what is your favorite dinosaur? Let us know in the comments. And that is it for this episode of Easily Entertained. If you enjoyed, which I hope you did, please be sure to give us a like and subscribe so you can be notified of all the latest episodes, which come out every Tuesday. It's always so much fun. We love it. It's a great time. And comment if there's any entertainment property that you'd like to see me talk about in the future. I would love to have some ideas on what you would like to see. It would be great. But until next time, bye.